How good of an operator are you of your biocomputer? What do you know about how your brain works?
I love that. I love that so much because this is how everything changes and this is how everything starts to shift in our life.
Any thought pattern, emotional pattern, behavioral pattern, and the results that they create, our brain creates a software program to automatically run it to conserve energy. That's just how this biocomputer works.
Hi, John. Thank you again for being here with me today. I am so excited to dive in, and I know my community is very excited to have you here with us. So thank you again for joining me today.
It is great to be here as well. And what I forgot to do was turn off my do not disturb, which I just did. I don't usually like to play with technology, but I want to make sure that I don't get disturbed. It's great to be with you, and I'm so excited as well.
Oh, so I know that I've been listening to you on YouTube. I've been seeing a lot of your interviews. I've seen you on some of your some television network shows that I've, of course, as well, that you've been interviewed in. And what fascinates me the most about you, and I think this is where we're going to start here, is not only did you start and venture early on into entrepreneurship, but you also dove into spirituality. I know a lot of people might know that you were also in the movie The Secret, right? You had a little short interview segment in there, right? Yep. And you also created this program and you talk very freely about mindset, habits, and money mentality. And then you're now going into, which I love so much, is our brain. And that's what your new book was all about too. But I kind of wanted to peel it back first and kind of talk a little bit about what happened in regards to you from the jump from entrepreneurship to teaching entrepreneurship to this.
So I've been on a journey from the time I was 19 years old where, you know, my life was a mess up until 19. From 13, 14, all the way up to 19, I got in trouble stealing, doing drugs, selling drugs, doing breaking and entries into businesses with a group of guys that were shoplifting, doing everything illegally to try and fit in and make some money. And I did that because I didn't feel like I was smart enough. I didn't do well in school, left high school at grade 11, failed English, failed math. And I said, F it. School is not for me. And I ended up just going to lunch with one of my brother's friends, who was a guy he was teaching tennis to, who asked me why was I doing all the things that I was doing that were illegal and getting in trouble. And I had this really amazing answer. I said, I don't know. And he said, well, have you ever considered maybe you don't really think that much of yourself, that your self-esteem and self-worth is so low that you're doing those things to augment artificially your self-image and self-worth of yourself so you feel like you fit in and belong? And I said, well, I never thought about it, but probably. And that really started my life on what he called back then being radically honest with yourself first if you really want to get to the next level. And so over the last 40 years, that was really 40 years ago, I started to really look at myself, like, who am I? Why am I here? Why do I have these disempowering negative thoughts and emotions 1 minute, and then I feel like I can conquer the world another minute? And why do I have a fear of failure or fear of rejection, and another moment I'm, you know, braggadocious and can achieve success? Like, I was fascinated with what was really going on in my head and my heart. And I just became a student of me, first me. And I read thousands of books, even though I hated school, but I loved to learn. I read thousands of books, and I built a few companies. And along the way, I picked up some clues, and I was fascinated with the human brain because everything's happening in there. You know, we've got a skull and then 3 pounds of this fat and water, you know, that is called a brain, but it's the most powerful biocomputer organism in the whole universe. But none of us were given the user's manual for it. Mm-hmm. So I got fascinated with change, success, high performance, and just got good at understanding it and explaining it.
Yeah. And I watched one of your interviews, and you talk about that, your story growing up. You know, you talk about also too, the man that entered your life and really focused on getting you out of the state of mind to think anything more than what you've grown up in. Yeah. And I thought that story was beautiful. And I kind of want to touch on, because a lot of my community as well, you know, as we discussed, it's men, and a lot of them talk openly about the relationship that they've had with their father and how they've been able, they feel like they're stuck and they can't, they're always trying to fix this relationship with their father, right? Or have it as non-existent because of things that have happened in their life. And I think that you are huge in this story in regards to an example of how you can change that around and really look at it at a different perspective of how someone else shows up in life. Sure. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know a lot of my viewers are asking a little bit about that. Mm-hmm.
Sure. So my father went to grade 5. My mother went to grade 3. My father was a cab driver. Mother worked at a Kmart, you know, dress or seams as a seamstress. And they always fought about the lack of money. My father cheated on my mother. He was an alcoholic, a gambler, and he beat the shit out of me when he would come home and see my failing grades. There wasn't such a thing as let's discuss what's happening. It was either fists or kicking or a belt and straps, you know, take down your pants and your underwear, get over my lap, and he would lash my ass. My ass is still swollen from the beatings I got when I was 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, until I got a little bit too big for him to do it. My mother would scream and slap. So he would hit and kick and strap, and she would scream and slap. So whenever I didn't perform to their expectations in school, which was really where I got into a lot of trouble, or with the law, it was beatings, no discussions, no understanding, out of total ignorance. So I loved my mother, hated my father, because he was way stronger than I was. And I felt like, you know, he was abusing me. But back then, hitting was more acceptable than it is today, right? Today, he'd be in jail. Back then, that was the way you disciplined your children. So up until the age of, 22, I had this anger, this resentment, this thought in my mind that one day I'm going to kill him. I'm just going to kill him. If he does it again, I'm just going to kill him. And those were the thoughts going on in my head. And then when I got onto this personal development exploration, I was at an event, and the instructor asked, like, why do you think, he hits you and he beats you? And I was like, well, because he's an asshole, he's a prick, he's a bastard, he's a blah, blah, blah. I said, did you ever, and this individual said, did you ever ask him? I said, no, why the fuck would I want to ask him? Like, I know why he's hitting me, etc. So I thought it was all about because of me, right? So he was hitting me because I was a bad boy. Mm-hmm. So one day when I mustered up the courage, when I had moved away from Montreal, moved to Toronto, which is where I got into real estate when I was 19, I mustered up the courage to say, hey, Dad, hey, Papa, why did you hit me so much? And why did you beat me when I was a kid? And he was very, very calm. This is 40 years ago, right? This is like 38, 40 years ago. He says, well, because you weren't behaving, and I had to get you in line so you'd be a good boy, so you'd be able to, achieve some success in your life. I go, well, why did you hit me? Like, why did you beat me so badly? And he goes, well, that's what my father did to me. That's how you discipline a child. Right? I'm like, holy shit. he did that to me. Now, in that same moment, and I don't know if I've shared this too many times, in that exact moment, I said, oh my God, I remembered something. When I was about 14, 15, like 5, 6 years earlier, we had a dog, and the dog's name was Caesar German Shepherd. And when Caesar didn't behave, I used to hit him on his ass so freaking hard. One day, I was going to pet my dog that I loved. I would run with this dog. I would feed this dog. I would do everything with this dog. I trained this dog. I went to pet him, and the dog shivered. And in that moment, when my father told me his father beat him, he beat me, I was behaving the same way with my dog.
Yes. Mm.
Oh, God, Dad. So you were actually loving me, but you learned to love me. You have to beat me into compliance. Boom. I had an epiphany. He was actually just behaving the way he learned to behave to discipline. And I was like, oh my God. I said, well, for years I've hated you. He goes, why would you hate me? I said, well, because you beat me. He says, yeah, but I beat you because I wanted to do good for you. Our relationship changed that day.
Yeah.
And every day from then, my father never said, I love you to me, to my brother or my sister, ever, ever, ever. And out of my mouth, the same event that I went to, they asked about, do you tell your parents you love them? Do they tell you that they love you? And I said, no, my mother, yes, all the time. My father, no freaking way. I haven't seen my father cry. My father's never said, I love you. Then, well, have you ever considered just telling him you love him? At the time, I didn't love him. But in this moment, I said, I love you. And he, on the phone, I could hear his voice was quivering a little bit. He says, I love you too, boy. Not John, not son, boy. I love you too, boy. And then I realized that he had been so hurt, but he also was repeating patterns that he was subject to. So that was that story. And then by contrast, I had this new mentor, this man that my brother introduced me to, that was smart, kind, mega successful, happily married, a great father, business galore, philanthropist. I go, oh, he's like the father I never had. So I gravitated toward learning from him. And that was the beginning of my life transforming, because he asked me one question. The answer to that one question changed my life.
Yes, I love that. I love that because your story that you share shows how if we actually show up and look at probably our past or our old relationships or our old parenting that has happened when we've grown up, our parents really did what they could probably best that they knew because that's how they were programmed. And that's why personal development and what you do, what I do is so huge because it gives us the opportunity to change and reprogram for our next generation, right?
That's right.
Because just because it's a part of us growing up doesn't mean it can become a part of us because we can also take control of that. And that's what you've done, in your life. And then when I see you and when I hear these stories, I think it's so powerful and impactful as a man to also talk about this in the relationship with his father and show that when you forgive, the other person's not winning. So many people think when you forgive someone, they win. That means that, you let them do it. No, it sets you free from the attachment of fear or anger that you have towards them.
Yeah, there's a couple other frames to that too, right? And that's when you have the anger and the resentment, you're the one swallowing the poison pill over and over and over again, hoping they're going to die. Yeah. Right. And the other thing, so I learned also how to reframe, the experience with my father specifically. I said, because my father was ignorant and had this conditioning and behavior and treated me the way he did, I vowed to be an amazing father to my sons. And there isn't a day that we are together. There's 26, Keenan, he's 26 now, Noah's 25, they're 18 months apart. There isn't a day that goes by without I love you, Keenan. I love you, Noah. I love you, Pops. They don't know what it's like to have a day go by without an I love you.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know what it's like not to have a hug. They don't know what it's like not to see each other and hold each other and embrace each other out of so much love, because that was because of how my father was. I chose a different path to create a different garden and environment for my sons. So in essence, thanks, Dad, for what you did for me, not to me.
Yes, I love that. I love that so much, because this is how everything changes, and this is how everything starts to shift in our life. And this is how we start to take control. And I know in your book, you talk a lot about this as well. And one of the things that I love is in the book, there's a segment in there that you talk about how to increase your mental and emotional control, right? Because when I've been in this community of men for 7 years, so I hear their concerns all the time when it comes to emotions, right? Two-part question for you, John. One is, with the relationship that you've had with your father, I want to kind of know how it contributed to your romantic relationships as well. And then two, I love the fact that you talk openly about how your sons are always like, I love you, and they show that emotion, right? There's a huge disconnect with our society, I think, in general, with our men, of connecting to the emotions so they connect to their partner, their wife, their mother, their daughters, right? Or themselves mainly. So I want to kind of go into how this affected possibly you and your relationships and turn it around, but also how do we bring in that emotional component in connecting with ourselves so we can show that right side of vulnerability. We're not at a loss of our emotions.
Sure. So I think there's a couple of things that we can play with, and I assume you talk about my newest book, Inner Size, right?
Yes, Inner Size.
Yeah, Inner Size. So let's first understand the difference between emotions and feelings. Okay. So from a neuroscience and neuropsychology perspective, all emotions, like we weren't born with emotions, right? We weren't born with the emotion of fear of failure or fear of being embarrassed, ashamed, ridiculed, or judged. We weren't born with that as a preconditioned neural network in our brain. And so we learned, the things we might say or not say, the things we might do or not do that could cause us to fail, to be rejected, to be embarrassed, ashamed, to feel guilty. We have learned those things. And what may cause one person to fear being embarrassed may not cause another person to feel being embarrassed. And that's why we have people who feel comfortable walking on nude beaches and others that don't. And we have people who are afraid of snakes and others that love snakes. So we learn these things. So I want everyone to understand that emotions are all triggered in our subconscious mind based on the conditioning that we've had and the meaning that we, at a subconscious level, have given things. Either we adopted them because of our parents, or we developed these meanings that became part of our subconscious patterns. And any cue from the external world or internal world that triggers these things create these emotional reactions that cause an electrical activity in the brain and then neurochemicals that cause us to feel a certain way. So feelings is what is happening in my body. Emotions are triggered in my subconscious mind. Now, the reason I want to say that is this. Every human being is biologically, for a couple of million years of evolution, wired to move away from unpleasant feelings. So if we think, for example, I want to tell her I love her. But in the very next second, nanosecond, there's a part of our brain that says to us, well, what if she doesn't say I love you too. Then I might be embarrassed. I might be rejected. I might be ashamed for saying how I feel. So the action and reaction mechanism that's happening in our brain in a billionth of a second causes us not to say, I love you.
Mm.
So then what are we going to do? Well, we will do more to avoid pain or discomfort than we will to gain pleasure. So therefore we just go, I'll wait till she says it.
Yeah.
So now I'm robbing myself and her of the potential of intimacy. I'm not talking about sexual intimacy. I'm talking about emotional, spiritual intimacy of connectivity.
Mm-hmm.
So what we really have to start understanding is this. First and foremost, there's nothing wrong with the mechanism of fear. Fear of being rejected, embarrassed, ashamed, judged is an automatic circuit that turns on. There's nothing wrong with that, just like there's nothing wrong with the light going off on your dash in your car to let you know something's going on in one part or more of the car. You don't take a hammer and hit the light, right? You just go, I wonder what is going on. Well, maybe I'm low on gas. Maybe the back right tire is low on air. Maybe I'm down windshield wiper fluid. Maybe the spark plugs aren't working. Something is up. So emotions are nothing more. Emotions and feelings are nothing more than signals that we could learn to be aware of. And then in the state of awareness, we can set an intention, and then we can set an action to move us towards what we want instead of away from what we don't want.
Yes.
Right? So now we're talking about a skill. Mm-hmm. Now we're talking about, can I upgrade my mental neuromuscles? Yes. Can I upgrade my awareness around emotions and feelings and strengthen my resiliency, my resolve, my determination, and my behaviors so that I'm doing more of what I want instead of playing defense, moving away from what I don't want? And the answer is yes. And earlier you mentioned, I got into this neuroscience side for, better part of 20 years. I've been a neuroscience or behavioral neuroscience researcher, but more along the line of how does that apply to my performance in life so I can have greater health, more wealth, deeper relationships, greater charitable contributions of my time, energy, money, more fun, more experiences, and to deliberately and consciously evolve myself based on neuroscience and neuropsychology, which is giving us deeper insights now than ever before into how our brain works. And here's the most amazing thing. I think maybe some people will be shocked. If you invested $100 billion right now, you started today, and you tried to make a human brain, you couldn't do it in the next 3 to 5 years. How do I know? Because we've used more than $100 billion and we haven't gotten there yet.
Wow.
So what that means is you and I already own an organism and biocomputer that rivals any computer on the planet right now. Now I'm going to ask you this question. How good of an operator are you of your biocomputer? And I'm not asking you, I'm asking all of us, right? What do you know about how your brain works? What do you know about what I call the Einstein part of your brain, right? That can imagine, that can use its deductive reasoning abilities, that can use higher cortical functions of thinking.
Yes. To
override automatic emotional reactions tied to when you were a child that maybe you need to upgrade. What do you know about the Frankenstein's monster part of your brain? It's right prefrontal cortex specifically, that's tied right to your hippocampus or your memory bank, that anytime Okay, you think of doing something great for your health, wealth, relationships, career, business, finance, whatever it is. There's another part of your brain that's automatically going, hey, what if you fail?
Mhm.
And it's projecting into the future what might happen if you fail, if you're embarrassed, ashamed, ridiculed, judged, or you disappoint yourself or somebody else once again. Now, again, we're talking about billions of seconds. This processing is happening without you thinking about it. But the electrical and neurochemicals that are running through your body are going to determine whether you move forward or you retreat. So what if you could just learn a few tools to have better or greater mental and emotional control? What if you could learn that 97, 98% of how you behave is habitual? And it's based on all of your old conditioning and programming and the neural circuitries that have been reinforced since you've been born, because you weren't born with any beliefs or habits or fears or a self-image or self-worth or self-esteem. What if you could deliberately gain more control? Wouldn't you want to?
Of course.
So that's the domain I play in, is understanding, why do we do the things we do? Why don't we do the things we know we should do? And being on a path of self-discovery without any judgment, blame, shame, guilt, or justification.
Yes.
Right?
And of course, and it starts with the awareness too. And in just that's the first move. And
Right.
sorry to cut you off, John, because it's just something I think about too, because sometimes people they're not even at the point where they have that awareness, right? So for me as a coach, specifically as well, I think of this and I'm just like, what is the best way to bring someone to their awareness? Or someone's asking, like, how do I even become aware of these thoughts? Because they've been so programmed that I'm on autopilot most of the time,
Well, everybody's on autopilot and everybody is 100% disciplined, believe it or not, to what they're autopiloted to be conditioned to. Right? There's something called automaticity, and it's part of how the brain works. And so any thought pattern, emotional pattern, behavioral pattern, and the results that they create, our brain creates a software program to automatically run it to conserve energy. That's just how this biocomputer works, right? So the first thing to ask yourself is this: if awareness is important as a skill, what am I doing daily to practice my awareness? Hence, I wrote the book Inner Size. So if exercise strengthens your physical muscles, inner size and inner size stacks, as I call them, right, strengthen your core neuro muscles. Awareness is one of your greatest neuro muscles. So if we looked at who are like the Olympic athletes of awareness, well, monks who meditate for 8, 9, 10 hours a day usually develop the ability to self-regulate brain waves, whether it's alpha, beta, theta, delta, gamma, etc., or sub brain waves, which causes you to change the lens by which you're not only seeing the world, but how you're feeling. One is a state of responsiveness. And when you don't play the game of responsiveness, you're in an automatic game of reactiveness. So every single day, for example, all of my students have a little bit of homework to do. A is, first and foremost, in the morning, they prime their brain, their biocomputer, with the vision, the goals, the beliefs, the habits that they want to reinforce. Why? Because those are patterns. Yeah. B, at 55 minutes past the hour, I ask them to put on their little mobile phone just so it beeps, so that they could do 2 exercises. I'll share those with you if I can right now. Exercise number 1 is simply called Take 6, Calm the Circuits. What does that mean? Well, we know if you were to take away my skin, my skull, you know what you'd be left with? All you would see is this, right? With a nervous system. You wouldn't even see my hand, but you'd see this brain with a nervous system. Light comes in through the eyes, sound comes in through the ears, and we are navigating this external world and internal world through a brain and a nervous system. Well, we know that this nervous system has a sympathetic and a parasympathetic arm to it. The sympathetic is your fight, flight, freeze, stress, anxiety, doubt, uncertainty circuit. And the parasympathetic is my calm to respond circuit. Most people are operating in this consistent stressed state, right? And so their sympathetic nervous system is on high alert all day. And they're releasing adrenaline, cortisol, epinephrine, norepinephrine, this almost like this highly caffeinated neurochemical, right? And they become hijacked by that state. So what if I told you that if you just took 6 deep breaths slowly in through your nose and slowly, slowly, slowly out through your mouth as if you are breathing out through a straw. That's one more. If we just did 6 breaths in and out, 1 minute to 90 seconds max, we deactivate that sympathetic nervous system. We deactivate the default mode network system in the brain, which is the automatic self. There's 3 major networks and many circuits, but the automatic self network is the one that keeps us doing and being and thinking and feeling and behaving, keep repeating the same results. So if we deactivated the default mode network the way I normally am, and we did 6 deep breaths and we moved into our Einstein brain, the parasympathetic left prefrontal cortex part of our brain, and then I did exercise number 2 right after that, which is AYA, A-I-A. AYA stands for awareness of thoughts, emotions, feelings, sensations, and behaviors. And what if for every hour that I'm, let's say at work or home, I took 3 minutes to do this and I became aware of what have I been thinking about the last 55 minutes? What have I been feeling? What have I been doing? Are the thoughts, emotions, feelings, and behaviors moving me towards my vision and goals that I want to achieve? Or are they moving me away from them? Am I being constructive or destructive? Am I feeling empowered or disempowered? Am I behaving positively or negatively? What if I just did that every hour for 3 minutes? And then I became aware. And then once I was aware, without what I said before, judgment, blame, shame, guilt, or justification, just awareness, I'm just aware of a pattern. What if I then set an intention for the next 55 minutes? So my intention for the next 55 minutes is to have a ton of energy, to be focused, to be on my A game, to deliver a 55-minute of a powerhouse of results for myself, whether it's health, wealth, relationships, career, business, it doesn't matter. I'm going to be aware, I'm going to set an intention, and then I'm going to reduce the cognitive requirements. I'm just going to say, okay, that's what I want to do. What's one action I could take right now to do it? Not 10, what's 1? So now, if I did that for 1 day, that's great. If I did that 8 times in 1 day, that's really great. If I did that 7 days in a row, okay, now I have 50 practice runs of being aware and setting an intention and taking inspired action. And I've learned how to deactivate my stress, fear, anxiety center in my brain. I've learned how to activate my calm to respond, higher cortical functions of my brain. What if I did that for 1 month? Now I have hundreds of times that I've practiced. And what do we know about the human brain? What we practice becomes permanent.
Yep. It's a habit and permanent.
So is it possible that I can train my brain, since it's an organism and I am not my brain no more than I am my finger, that I could train my brain? And since the brain loves automatic systems and processes to conserve energy, if I use conscious energy and capital, brain capital, to develop the pattern that is an empowering pattern, is it possible that that pattern will then develop me? Oh yeah, that's the power of inner size. Now this is deliberate conscious evolution of me. I am being deliberate at piloting my own ship. I am the orchestra leader now that can direct the members of the band or orchestra, versus being in a reactive state, which is where most people are playing from. And we just react based on our training and conditioning.
Yeah.
So all of the work that I do in the behavioral neuroscience field is understanding the circuits, salience, executive, and default mode network. I'm sorry, the networks and the circuits, the fear circuit, the spirituality circuit, the motivational reward circuit, and how to activate or deactivate the ones that I want that'll empower me to have a masterpiece of a life. Now that puts me back in control. Now I'm deliberate. Now I'm upgrading my mindset as I upgrade my skill set, and I deliberately create the action sets required to match the health, wealth, relationships, career, business, finances, charity, parts of my life that I want. Very, very, very deliberate, using the $100 billion brain we already own with no mortgage on it.
Oh my gosh, I can listen to you forever. I mean,
I'm passionate about this, you can tell.
I'm so fascinated about the human brain. Like in my mind, I'm like, I hope he teaches people one day and just builds a whole program around the brain, because I'm the first one to sign up.
Well, actually, next year we are starting our neuro gym, which is my company, myneurogym.com, inner size practitioner program.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You just gave me a Christmas present. It's not even December yet.
Awesome.
This is amazing, because I know for sure, for me in general, like I come from a background of a lot of things that I had to rewire and switch. And this is exactly how I did it. And when I hear you, I give myself a pat on the back, because this is how I also help my clients become more aware. And this is what you're saying. And I'm so happy that not only that this is true to what I'm doing, but also to hear you say it. And also for our community to know that this can happen. You can shift, you can overcome a lot of these things. Now, I kind of want to just jump it for the last couple of minutes that we have into a little bit of relationships and obsessiveness of the mind, right? I think that's a huge, huge thing. But like I started in the beginning, I kind of want to know about how maybe some of this reprogramming helped you get better in your marriage or your romantic relationships as you were growing up as well.
Sure. So as I mentioned to you before, we I think turned the record button or the play button. I was divorced twice before I met my wife, Maria, 21 years ago. And first divorce, I got married because I felt obligated to, because I had moved from Toronto to Indiana to build my first company, Remax of Indiana. And the gal that I was dating said, listen, if we don't get married, then, I'm not going to keep going back and forth every weekend. And so I said, well, let's get married. And then quickly realized we shouldn't have gotten married. It was the wrong reason to get married. But I thought out of obligation, I'm going to get married. Mistake number one. 6 months later, after we got divorced, I met this other gal. She got pregnant and we got married because I didn't want to have a child out of wedlock. And so we got married. And then we split up after we had our first son. We were intimate once. 6 months later, she got pregnant again. So we tried to make it work. And we were just opposite. So we decided, let's raise our children together. We love each other. Let's raise our children together. We're not supposed to be a couple together. But after the second divorce, I said to myself, okay, kiddo, you like radical honesty, right? You were at the scene of both those crimes, right? It can't be them, just them. So it can't just be them,
Oh, I love that you're saying this.
right? So I'm like, okay,
I know.
are you ready to really be radically honest? I said, okay, like, do I have a model, okay, for a healthy relationship? No. I'm behaving the way my father behaved with my mother. Here we go again, right? Oh my God, I'm behaving in a flippant F you modality. Like if you don't do this, or if I can't have that, and blah, 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 then F off, I'm out of here. And so I had these beliefs, and I had a lack of skill. It's almost, I didn't have skill in how to be in a relationship with a woman. I had great business partners in business that we had honesty, integrity, communication. We talked about anything and everything, but I couldn't do that in my relationship. I felt insecure. I felt insecure. Can I share a story that I think you may find funny? You may not believe that I'm going to share it with you. I'm going to make a point. And I've told this story with my wife to my community. You'll understand in just a moment, but it may shock some people. So my wife, Maria, and I were being intimate about 3-4 weeks ago. And just before we were both about to have an orgasm, she like pushes me away and she goes, stop, stop, stop. And I go, why? What's wrong? She goes, I really don't like this finger in the butt thing. I said, why, honey? It's my finger and it's my butt. Now, that's a joke, but the point of the story is what I never knew how to do is have open, transparent, 100% raw communication. I always hid behind stuff, whether it's fantasies, whether it's business or money, or I didn't know how. I didn't know how to show up authentically, just being me with a woman, because I felt unsafe. I felt flawed. I felt, insecure. Now, why did I just share this story? If you cannot, which you can, by the way, if you cannot right now be 100% honest with you and who you are, with all of your quirkiness and idiosyncrasies and fantasies and fetishes, or none at all, then you will never have the ability to have a relationship that is possible. So when I met Maria, she actually taught me how to communicate. She actually taught me how to say things in a way that didn't offend, that didn't attack, that didn't push down or condemn, or to hide behind what I really felt. I had to learn those skills, right? So the reason I want to share that is I had to upgrade my skill set as I shifted my mindset and my beliefs of what is possible. So what's possible is to have a deeply intimate, loving, caring relationship. But in order to have that, you have to be vulnerable. You have to be able to share things that you are not comfortable sharing. That's what actually creates the bond. We fall in love with each other in the dip, in the fractures, in the stuff. Because when we can expose who we really are, if somebody doesn't love you just the way you are, it's just a matter of time before they don't love you. Right? So she taught me, how to communicate in a way that was safe and vulnerable. And we've developed this phenomenal relationship of trust and integrity and honesty. But I had to shift my mindset about what's possible, my mindset about who I was in a relationship. My vision and my goal was to have an amazing, deep, caring, loving relationship that was raw and honest, no matter what. And then I said, well, how do I do it? Like, how do I develop the skill? How do I feel safe? How do I share in a non-threatening way? How do I receive in a non-judgmental way? Those were things I had to work on. So, all of that's happening in here. So if I'm feeling unsafe, why? What am I really afraid of? If I'm being judgmental, how come? What am I really trying to do? If, I feel afraid that he or she will leave me, how come? What is it about he or she leaving me or me being alone that I really don't like? Like, what meaning am I giving it? So really having a framework, right, of being safe in asking great questions and not being afraid of the answer.
Yeah.
Because there is where the work is. And this is where you need to go into the work versus suppress and hide and pretend it's not there, because until you do that, it never goes away. Because you still know. You see, the person in the mirror knows every day. And the more you know you're suppressing and not expressing, the more you actually are disempowering yourself and affecting your self-image, self-worth, self-esteem, and self-confidence even more. So I wanted a great relationship. I got divorced twice because it wasn't perfect. It was mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially brutal. But I had a vision of the kind of relationship I wanted. And she had the model. Her mother and father were married for like 50 years before he died. They had a great relationship. I said, oh my God, that's what it's supposed to look like? Oh, so she taught me.
Yeah.
She taught me. Like, I'm pretty smart. I don't need help. Oh no, I needed a lot of help.
Yeah.
And I was okay being vulnerable, asking for help. Because it was in the asking for help, she felt empowered. Yeah. It was in the receiving the help, I got even more love, self-love, and more love from her. So it's kind of like the very thing that I was afraid of was the very thing I needed to move towards.
Yes. Yeah. And the biggest thing with that, what you were saying, is you took the accountability in this, like as it wasn't a blame. It wasn't a shift. It was an I. So you opened up that tunnel for your wife to come in and to help.
That's right.
I have that module with my husband. My husband has that family too, and I never did. So I get it. This is great. Oh my goodness, John, this is amazing. And guys, everybody that's listening, watching, wherever you're tuning in from, when we do post this, we're talking about relationships and also, beliefs, our subconscious mind, our mental health, and so on. And I know you do a lot, John, with just in general with everything. We had so many questions that I didn't even get into with my community. So probably have to have you back again. My community are bookworms. When I tell them to buy a book, they buy a book, let me tell you. So this is one of those books that I definitely want them to have in hand, because I know this is life-changing stuff. But you also do talk a lot about, and I just want to quickly go into this because I know I'm going to post this when we do have it, is winning at money and having a really good understanding of, and I believe money is energy, right? When we live in our integrity and we live in purpose and we're speaking and we're helping others, money will always be a revolving thing. And you say, there's something that I remember that you said once and it stuck with me, is money is a means of exchange. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And so I definitely will include those links in regards to that when we do post that, because I would love for my community to also go into there besides just getting your book as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've got several New York Times best-selling books. Inner Size is my newest best-selling book, The New Science to Unlock Your Brain's Hidden Power. I've been an entrepreneur. I've built some companies, made some good money, helped a lot of people make money as well along the way. And money is a means of exchange. And but something to consider as well is you will never make more money than your self-image and self-worth will allow you to make.
Yeah.
We don't make money because we want to make money. We make money because of the conditioning, the financial set points that we have in our brains. And that's why, think about this. Lottery winners win 5, 10, 20, 30 million dollars. 87% lose the money within 7 years. Millionaires who lose the money, 87% make the money within 5 years. How come? Because they have the neural patterns to make it back. And so what happens is our brain, part of our brain, we have a weight set point, a relationship set point, a financial set point, a business set point. And these are all part of this automatic circuits that keep comfort zones of homeostasis. So let's say somebody makes $5,000 more this month than they made last month. Their brain will calibrate, for them to make less the following month or 2 or 3 until there's what? Homeostasis. If we make too much, we sabotage. If we make not enough, we work our asses off to make what we're used to. So if money is a means of exchange, then yes, there's behavior that we need to take in order to earn what we want. But if we don't recalibrate our financial set point and thermostat, chances are we will sabotage. And there's 5 games we're playing with money. There's the earning game, the managing game, the investing game, the debt game, and the protection game. So if we don't upgrade our skills in those 5 areas, we might make a lot of money, but we might just spend like a drunken sailor and end up with whatever we are conditioned to. So all of this stuff is it's easy to understand. It takes a little bit of time to upgrade the skill, like anything else.
Yes, wonderful. And I can't wait because I will be sending that out to everybody when you do
Awesome.
set up. Is it in September, right?
October 23rd is the next big brainathon, and it's called Change Your Brain, Change Your Income.
Oh yes, October 23rd. I'm sorry. Yes, wonderful. Oh, John, it was so great to meet you virtually. Also, too, wish I can give you a big hug, but I can't do that virtually. But thank you so much for today's interview. It was wonderful. We'll definitely have to have you back. Thank you so much for giving me your energy as well. I took away a lot, and I know the guys have as well. Thank you so much for being here.
Appreciate you very much.
If you're looking for more incredible content that will change your life in dating and relationships, check out this video right over here. This is absolutely made for you. And also too, don't forget to download this free ebook down below. It's my 7 common mistake ebook that men make when attracting women in dating and relationships. And I have it specially for you. See you in the next video.